Hello, and welcome all to the Unbound playtest. This video is designed to provide a basic overview of Unbound, giving you a jumpstart on how to play the game and how to make a character. It's not, however, an in-depth review of the game and its mechanics. And to kick things off, Unbound is a tabletop role-playing game, or TTRPG, that uses a D20 system of dice to achieve results within the game. It's originally inspired by Pathfinder, 3rd edition of D&D, but aimed to bring some of the accessibility and simplicity of 5th edition D&D to a more complex system. It's since branched off into its own system, one which has gone away from classes into entirely classless style of play. What we mean by this is that instead of using classes found within traditional systems such as D&D or Pathfinder, Unbound has an experience shop system, wherein you buy class features, talents, skills, abilities, and so on through the use of your experience, which can either be spent using downtime rolls as a standard, providing the purchase after a set amount of time training the purchase, or through the optional instant application roll, wherein one's XP is spent to purchase immediate and the desired feature is given. Because of this, Unbound does not have the traditional levels 1 through 20 of D20 RPGs. Instead, it has power ranks, beginning with Apprentice, moving up to Journeyman, Professional, Master, and finally Grandmaster and beyond. These power ranks are representations of the overall power of a character and the challenges they may face, with each power rank unlocking more unique and powerful abilities, while also providing an increase in the power cap of skills and abilities. All characters begin within the Apprentice rank of play, as it is considered Unbound's 1st to 4th level of play, with the following ranks rising in 4 level blocks from there in terms of overall playstyle. Though Unbound is designed for players to take on challenges within their own rank, it is possible for low-rank characters to take on higher-rank challenges and succeed. This is due to the partially bounded accuracy system of play within the game, but also due to the emphasis on tactics. Now, getting into the core items that you will need to play Unbound. First off, you will need a copy of the latest Unbound playtest document, current playtest being version 0.5.9 as of this recording, or the official Unbound core rulebook upon release. A set of D20 system dice, which consists of a D4, 2D6, a D8, a D10, D12, a D20, and a percentile die, sometimes referred to as a D100. Additionally, the storyteller of the game will want a copy of the Unbound Storyteller's Handbook, which houses rules for monster creation, crafting, and tips on running the game. You'll also want a copy of the Bestiary, which houses pre-made threats to challenge your party at varying ranks of play. Shifting from there, let's look at characters themselves. Unlike in D&D, each character has 9 core ability scores, or attributes as they are called in Unbound. Attributes in Unbound are broken down into 3 core categories: body, mind, and soul, with body holding the traditional strength, dexterity, and constitution scores, mind holding intellect, which represents the character's overall knowledge, fellowship, which represents how charismatic a character is but also their force of will, and thaumaturgy, which is a representation of a character's magical knowledge. Lastly, we have soul, which holds magic, a representation of your raw magical talent, spirit, a representation of your character's strength of soul or character, and luck, which shows how favored a character is by fate. Unbound has, like in other D20 RPGs, a selection of character races, which will be renamed in a future update to lineages. That can be chosen that represents your character's ancestry. There is a large selection of core races which include the traditional humans, elves, dwarves, gnomes, halflings, and orcs, but also some stranger creatures like the oozlings. From there, Unbound also houses a selection of monstrous races, which are stronger than core races and are optional. They can be selected at your storyteller's discretion at the cost of 70 experience at character creation, and an increased threshold for rank increase. Regardless of your chosen race, Unbound has a mixed heritage system, allowing you to combine 2 races into 1 half-breed, thus allowing you to play, for example, a half-orc human or tiefling kobold. Rules for this can be found under Chapter 2, Races of the Playtest document. There are a few things to note down. First off, almost everything is governed by the skills your character possesses in the game. Making an attack roll with a weapon or natural attack? Check a relevant martial skill. Casting a spell? Make a check using the relevant magic skill. Because of this emphasis on skills that may give one pause when looking at the Unbound character sheet, there are a lot of skills, as you can see here on this digitized character sheet. Skills themselves are broken down into 4 categories, and they are as follows: adventure skills, which cover the skills you'll be using most often during non-combat scenes and roleplay, such as acrobatics, knowledges, stealth, and survival; utility skills, which cover all forms of crafting and harvesting of usable materials, such as mining, magical essence, or rending a beast for its hide. We then have martial skills in its 2 subcategories of defensive skills and maneuver skills, with martial skills covering all forms of weaponry and natural attacks such as heavy blades, axes, bows, natural attacks, firearms, magical foci, and so on. Defensive skills covers 2 defensive action skills, being parry, with the ability to deflect an incoming attack, repel, being the ability to deflect an incoming maneuver. From there we have maneuver skills, which cover special combat actions such as disarming a foe with their weapon or an item in their hand, tripping a foe by knocking them prone or out of the air, grappling them, and so on. Lastly, we have magic skills, which cover all schools of magic and the spells that they can create, as well as the ability to counterspell and more utilitarian magic skills such as the binding of spirits and summons, control of mana, the application of rituals, and finally, the ability to see magical auras. While skills are a major part of the game, not all will be needed by your character, but your skills will determine some key aspects of your character at creation. The first major choice is whether or not your character can cast magic. If you possess any magic school skills at character creation, you can cast a spell and are considered to be a magic user, and thus receive a magical casting tradition, which we'll go into more detail later on. The other major choice that will impact your character will be if you possess at least 50% or more martial skills than you do magic skills. Should this be the case, you receive a partial martial tradition. If you possess no magic skills at character creation, you instead gain a full martial tradition. Now, I have referenced casting traditions and martial traditions. These are a representation of your character's personalized power in the magical and martial arts respectively. A casting tradition, better known as a magic tradition, marks how a mage produces magic within the world, and how their magic may be specialized, whether that be through traditional casting, such as spontaneous or prepared casting, or more specialized, such as blood magic, necromancy, sigil magic, or wild magic. These can be further enhanced through specializations in the forms of boons and drawbacks. From there, we have martial traditions. Martial tradition is a specialized suite of abilities that represents your character's unique fighting style. Each tradition is tied to a set of weapons or martial themes that provide either a passive or active ability when chosen, allowing you to mix and match these abilities granted by your martial tradition, thus creating your own style of martial combat. A partial martial tradition is considered a level 2 tradition and begins with 2 abilities, while a full martial tradition is considered a level 4 tradition and begins with 4 abilities. You can choose any ability, passive or active, from any level that you have attained within your tradition. Earlier, I referenced the attribute scores and how they are broken down into 3 main categories of body, mind, and soul. With Unbound, the base way to generate attributes is through point buy, granting you a pool of points for each category to spend on, and then in some cases a pool of floating points that can be spent on any category. Alternatively, you can use the attribute roll method of D20 games, or whichever method best suits your storyteller's fancy. The current web-based character sheet Unbound utilizes has an inbuilt point buy calculator that aid in the character creation. A version of it can be found linked on the Unbound World Anvil as well as the Unbound Discord. When using the web-based character sheet, be sure to make a copy before making edits to your character sheet, so you have a fresh sheet to use. In Unbound, your character's backstory can play a larger role than story alone. Within Unbound, you gain 2 traits, which represent your character's unique theme and backstory for free. You can gain an additional trait by taking on a flaw. Traits and flaws are minor features that provide either a positive or negative effect to your character. Additionally, your storytelling may include the optional backstory boon rule, which provides talent level or stronger traits and flaws to your character, based upon a written backstory sent to your storyteller. These can simply be a free talent or a character creation, or something entirely unique and designed by the storyteller, for both you and them, to show your character's unique path in life. From there, we have a suite of starting experience, traditionally 100 experience, that can be spent freely on the XP shop for things such as skills, which we have discussed, talents, which are feats or features that provide passive or active effects to a character and are a combination of feats and class features from other D20 systems, saving throws, which are broken down into body saves, mind saves, and soul saves, and other features such as defensive actions allowing you to parry or repel more often, increase dodge AC from unarmed combat, and so on. Finally, all that is left is to equip your character, with every new character being given a base set of 10 GP that they can use to buy their equipment and some free items, depending on their skills, or use this to buy a starting package from one of the 6 found under Adventure Gear in Chapter 6 Equipment. Now, because of Unbound being a classless system, this may feel daunting when making your first character. With the vast array of talents available, you may be at a loss on where to start off when making your character. For example, what if you already have a core theme in mind, but are unsure of where to start? Let's say you're wanting to play a roguelike character, one that skulks in the shadows only to backstab a foe for high damage, while laying traps to keep enemies from striking their flank. This character theme can be achieved either by looking at the character archetype packages found under Chapter 1 Character Creation, which provides a set guideline on what talents and features to purchase to produce the desired result. Alternatively, the talents have been organized into key categories that make it easier to design a particular character. For the above example, sneak attack, stealth, thievery, and trapper talent categories will be the ones of most interest to your character. Additionally, melee weapon, ranged weapon, general combat, general, and the defensive categories will be useful for your character as well, on it if you are wanting to focus on melee or ranged weapons, with the latter 3 being just generally useful for any character. From there, you can branch off into any other talent category as you see fit. As the story progresses, maybe your rogue starts dabbling in alchemy, takes some magical alchemy and mundane alchemy talents. Perhaps they look inwards and tap into their inner chakra, take some key talents. Feeling lucky, take some luck talents. Talent categories will help you to guide the theme of your character and is recommended to only focus on a few categories when first starting out, so as to not overwhelm yourself with options, patching out only when you feel more comfortable. Now that you have the basics of character creation, which you can always reference in the playtest book for a more in-depth review, let's move on to game mechanics. One of the bigger changes from D&D or Pathfinder's proficiency system. In Unbound, you do not have skill points in the traditional sense that boosts a skill by 1 for each point spent into it, nor do you have a flat bonus that increases for key skills whenever you reach a certain threshold. Instead, you have skill ranks. Each rank that a skill possesses provides a +2 bonus to that skill. For example, an apprentice in athletics would add 2 on top of the attribute modifier and miscellaneous modifiers to that skill, while a professional in athletics would add a +6 bonus to athletics on top of its other modifiers. Skill ranks are not automatic. You must spend XP to increase to the next rank of skill. For example, whenever you would rank up, say from apprentice to journeyman, all of your skills remain unchanged. You will need to spend XP to increase them from untrained to apprentice to journeyman. Speaking of ranking up, to do so you must have spent, yes spent, an amount of experience based upon the soon-to-be acquired rank, as shown on the table experience threshold shown here within the playtest document. Going from there, we have skill checks. Whenever you are wanting to achieve a result that is not certain, such as jumping over a 15-foot ravine, attacking an enemy, casting a spell, and so on, you must make a skill check with a relevant skill by rolling a d20 and adding your total modifier from that skill to the result. If your skill check meets or exceeds the DC, AC in the case of an attack, or the opposing roll in the case of an opposed skill check, you are successful in your desired action. Though the storyteller may have hidden modifiers for certain checks that you are not aware of, such as perception check having a penalty to your result due to the source of the sound being far away or being whispered. Unbound utilizes an action pool system of play based upon rounds of combat, with each round taking 10 seconds for a total of 6 rounds to a minute. During combat or in scenes which it matters, a character receives a suite of actions that they can take each round on their turn or off turn in some cases. These actions are as follows. The character receives 2 basic actions each round, which are used to make an attack, cast a spell, move, and other similarly vigorous actions. A single quick action, which is used to produce rapid yet somewhat restrictive actions, most often through the use of stamina, a resource we will delve into later. Free actions, such as talking, led only by the storyteller during a given round. Defensive actions, which allow a character to defensively react to actions on or off their turn, such as parrying an attack. Normally you only have 1 per round, but this number can be increased. Finally, reactions, such as an attack of opportunity, when a foe would provoke an attack from a movement or casting a spell, normally once per round, though this can be increased through certain talents and features. Some actions may require more than 1 basic, your full turn or even multiple turns to achieve. Jumping from there, let's look at attacks and tactical play in Unbound. Beginning with attacks, the basic attack action in Unbound is called an all-out attack action. This requires a single basic action to achieve and allows you to make an attack with all available attack slots allowed to you, such as from iteratives, abilities, talents, and so on. This action can only be taken once per round. If you are wanting to use your other basic action to attack, you would use the push the attack action, which allows you to make a single attack at an iterative stage of the last attack +1. This is done as a basic action. Attack rolls are skill checks using the relevant martial skill that go against a target's armor class or AC, or flat-footed AC if the target is flat-footed or otherwise unaware of the attacker's presence. At this point, I mentioned iteratives a couple of times. Iteratives are additional attacks that are granted to a character highly trained in their relevant martial skill, dealing a second attack at stage 2 at professional, and a third attack at stage 3 at grandmaster. Iteratives have stages, with the first attack being at stage 1, with each additional attack increasing the iterative stage by 1. Attack has a -3 penalty on the attack roll for every iterative stage it has passed the first. This applies on 2-weapon fighting attacks and natural attacks as normal. Weapon fighting functions similarly, however, talents are required to provide iteratives on the 2-weapon fighting attacks. At base, when wielding a weapon in your main and offhand, you make a single offhand attack if you do so. Both your main and offhand attacks suffer a 2-weapon fighting penalty on the attack rolls, equal to a -5 penalty. This penalty is reduced through features, talents, weapon properties, and other means. This penalty stacks with each iterative stage penalty, and the 2-weapon fighting penalty is applied again for each additional offhand attack. For example, at stage 1, you suffer the base 2-weapon fighting penalty. At stage 2, you suffer the 2-weapon fighting penalty and the iterative penalty. If able to make an additional offhand attack, 2-weapon fighting penalty applies again, and so on. Moving from there, let's look at magical attacks. When casting a spell, you must first make a spellcasting check to see if the spell is successfully cast. Some exceptions exist to this rule. If the spell is cast successfully, the spell is cast and now it must be applied. This can be done through granting a saving throw to the target, automatically succeeding if the target is willing and in range, or through an attack roll, when making a spell attack roll. Instead of rolling your magic skill again at base, you roll it using either your strength modifier if the attack is melee, or your dexterity modifier if it is ranged. Most spell attacks go against the target's touch AC instead of their normal AC. This could go against flat-footed touch AC if the target is flat-footed. Some abilities, such as weapon finesse, can change what attributes the attack uses. Once an attack hits the target, whether it is magical or martial, you apply the effects of the attack, such as rolling the damage, reduce the total damage by any damage reduction, also known as DR, or elemental resistance, also known as ER, that the target has, and lowers the target's current HP by the new total damage. Now, damage reduction only applies to physical sources of damage, such as bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, while elemental resistances apply to all other types of damages, based upon the specific type of elemental resistance it is. For example, fire resistance only applies against fire damage, and radiant resistance only applies against radiant damage, and so on. Within Unbound, critical hits and fumbles still exist on attack rolls and magic casting checks. Whenever you would roll a natural 1 on an attack roll or casting check, roll again. On another nat 1, or in some cases a higher roll, attack or spell fumbles. In this case of a martial fumble, roll on the critical fumble effect table to see the results. In the case of a spell fumble, roll on the wild magic table to see the results. For critical hits, whenever you would roll a natural number equal to or greater than the threat range of the attack, roll again. The confirmation roll meets or exceeds the target's AC, the attack is a confirmed critical hit. In the case of a magic, if the casting check is a natural 20 and the confirmation roll meets or exceeds the casting DC, the spell is a critical spell cast. For martial attacks, a confirmed critical produces a critical effect based upon the damage type of the attack and the strength of the critical hit. Generally, all criticals are minor effects, but this can be increased through talents and features. The power of the critical effect is determined by the attack's critical rating. Additionally, a martial attack's confirmed critical has its damage doubled. For magical spells, a confirmed critical produces a number of free upcasting effects equal to the spell's level on the spell. In either case, the attack or spellcasting check is a natural 20 with a natural 20 confirm, a hot streak occurs. Roll on the hot streak effect table to see the additional effect that is applied. Damaging attacks have their damage maximized and then doubled in the case of a hot streak, and then treat their critical effect as one tier higher. For example, a minor effect could become a moderate effect. Moving on from there, let's look at wounds and death. In Unbound, like in other D20 RPGs, your character has a pool of health or hit points, also known as HP, that represents their fighting spirit. However, in Unbound, the lower your HP, the less capable you become. For every quarter of your max HP lost, you suffer a -1 dire reduction penalty on all D20 rolls, and calculate statistics such as armor class. Certain talents or features can negate or lower this penalty. Each character additionally has a Death's Door HP measure, negative amount of HP equal to your Constitution score plus your Spirit score that indicates when you are in danger of dying. Should you be reduced to exactly 0 HP, you're considered disabled, suffer from the disabled condition until you are no longer at 0 HP. When below 0, but above half of your Death's Door HP, you're considered defeated, suffer from the defeated condition. While above this number but below your Death's Door HP, you're considered dying and suffer from that condition. Should you reach or exceed the Death's Door HP, you're at Death's Door and are subject to mortal wounds. Once you achieve 3 mortal wounds, you die. A mortal wound is a long-lasting debuff that causes a character to suffer from die reduction +1 for each mortal wound they possess. Additionally, a character dies should any of their attributes be reduced to 0 due to attribute drain. But Death's Door, a character at the start of each of their turns must make a body save or gain a mortal wound. Additionally, the save must be made whenever they are damaged while at Death's Door or gain a mortal wound. Let's look at some of the tactical play options in Unbound, as it is a core part of Unbound and its combat that can drastically change the outcome of a fight. Again, let's look at flanking. How to flank has not changed from previous editions of D&D or Pathfinder. You simply must be on opposite ends of the target to be considered flanking the target. For larger creatures, you must simply be able to draw a line between your space to your flanking partner's space while intersecting a full space with the target. However, its effects are unique. Flanking a creature provides the attacker a +2 bonus on their attack roll, but also reduces the effectiveness of certain features, most common of which would be shield users. The flanked shield user has their shield's bonus reduced by 50% against those flanking them, drastically reducing their shield's effectiveness. Similarly, certain tactical bonuses may be hindered while flanked. From there, we have charging. For those who have played Pathfinder or 3rd edition D&D, this should feel pretty normal to you. Move up to double your speed and make a single attack at the end of this movement. Now here's where things differ. Attack is made at an advantage, meaning you roll twice and take the better the results. Charging requires 2 basic actions. However, you can charge using only 1, but your movement is limited to half of your base speed, instead of double. Finally, charging applies a -2 penalty to AC and CMD until the start of your next turn. You must move at least 10 feet before charging. Additionally, you can charge through allies and even make turns during a charge. However, doing so requires acrobatics checks to successfully pull off. There are of course more tactical options within the game, but these are 2 of the most common and should be known by players of Unbound. Finally, we've mentioned stamina previously, as well as spellcasting, so let's dive into these 2 aspects further. Starting with stamina. Stamina is a resource pool that is derived from a character's constitution and spirit modifiers, and their vitality bonus. It is used to perform strenuous martial actions, with every character given the basic options of quick draw, allowing them to spend 1 stamina as a quick action to draw a stowed item, or sprint, allowing them to spend 2 stamina to move as a quick action. Further, stamina options are gained via martial traditions or some talents. As for spellcasting, unlike in D&D or Pathfinder, Unbound uses a mana system for its magic, with spells costing mana to cast, which is then restored after completing a long rest. Mana is equal to a character's magic score multiplied by their mana multiplier, and any other mana bonuses they may have. Generally, a spell costs 5 mana per spell level, with cantrips or 0th level spells costing 0 mana to cast. Looking further into spellcasting, Unbound has a fully customizable spell creation system. All spells, whether prefabricated or made on the spot, utilizes this system. Spells themselves are given an allotment of spell points which are used to purchase magic keywords to reduce magical effects. A spell can only use keywords from the same school of the spell, unless otherwise noted. For example, you cannot create a destruction spell using a keyword not found on the destruction keyword list. Additionally, you can use less spell points then you are given maximum, lowering the DC to cast the spell by 2 if you do so. When designing a spell, it is important to keep in mind your spellcasting tradition, as this will heavily impact how you prepare and cast your spells, and what keywords you can select and utilize. It is highly recommended for new players to use only prefabricated spells in either the spontaneous or prepared casting magic traditions when they first enter into Unbound. Alright, and with that we are at an end with this introduction video for Unbound. A more detailed look into character creation, gameplay, and other aspects of Unbound will be found in the future videos. This overview of the system as a whole should help out newer players jump into the game. There's certainly a lot to delve into within Unbound, and we have only scratched the surface. With the Unbound RPG having over 1,000 pages worth of content, so do not let that discourage you. The playtest document covers over 300 pages of talents alone, many of which a particular character may never need or utilize. Additionally, a lot of the content in the playtest document is a combination of storyteller and player-related content, while we transition the playtest book into 2 core books instead. So with that, as long as you focus on the core mechanics that you are interested in, the game should feel far less daunting. Hope you all a most wondrous day and happy gaming.